That the board approves hiring Dr. Amber Sessoms as a contracted consultant for diversity, equity, and inclusion funded through the $15,000 from the Act 44 School Safety and Security Grant Program.
I move to approve item 12D.
Second.
Moved and seconded. This too will be discussion.
Question? Yeah, I have a question. I moved it, but I have a question. I just need some clarification on this position. So I know when there were advocates for enhancing our curriculum in this area, and I guess I need some general clarification from Kim, Mel, Elizabeth, who were in the meeting the other night. So this is not to make changes to at this stage for the $15,000 for this year. It's not to change our curriculum, but it's more to train the trainers, to educate our staff on what to look for, to educate administrators on, and our Director of Human Resources on improving the hiring process, to know what questions to ask, to know what to consider in this process. Can you give an overview of the deliverables for this year from this individual? And I'm sorry, I didn't pick on anybody. I'll pick on you, Mel, first. To answer. You're on mute. Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out a way to communicate. Please unmute me. So we're going to begin with reviewing. If you look at Dr. Sessom's proposal, she starts with where are we now, and she would be working with us to look at all relevant data and speak to relevant stakeholder groups in order to determine where we are in our needs for equity and diversity consultation support. And then from there, we would work with her to create a plan, which would include professional development, which would include possible revisions to our hiring practices, which would include potentially recommendations for curriculum revisions, but she would not be the person who would be making the curricular revisions. That would be the teacher teams who I've been working with to do that work. But she would be walking alongside of us, helping to analyze our needs, and then helping us to create a plan and serving as a coach in that process.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but we would not be writing a check for $15,000. It would be authorizing spending up to $15,000 at this doctor's billing rate, which is in the materials.
That's correct.
And we would determine, we'd like you to work on this, we'd like you to follow up more on that, and we would be guiding, and she would be guiding us on what the needs were for this year. But we're not authorizing payment of $15,000 at this time. We're authorizing payment up to that amount contingent on her working the number of billable hours.
Absolutely correct. Yes.
Okay.
I think something that Dr. Sessoms and Mel and I talked about that would be a great example is we really need to build common vocabulary and common understanding of our need. That would be a key portion of our PD, so that we would have a cohesive goal and a well-informed staff who would do the work of any kind of implicit or explicit changes to curriculum that may be needed. So rather than putting the horse first, get the cart shored up so that we know defining our own context of inclusivity and our own context of diversity, and then gleaning our need, and then from there moving on to whatever work might need to be done. But if we feel the people who should be doing that work of writing explicit and implicit changes to our curriculum and to our policies and procedures aren't speaking the same language and understanding fully the same goal of our work, then we're kind of missing the mark. So that's the initial work that needs to be done.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I think Bill's muted if he's talking.
Bill, you're muted, Bill. Can you unmute yourself?
Yep, just did. Okay, sorry about that. I have a question, and not sure if this is Dr. Strine or Kim or Mel, but somebody please chime in. I believe this is a very important topic, especially in today's world. However, I have a concern being today's day one of school and during a national pandemic that everything is new and somewhat of an experiment and a trial by error to a certain degree. Are we trying to take on something that is just as big and have two huge taskings going on at the same time, or should we try to let the first day of school settled in and maybe a month, 2 months down the road entertain this? Just a question.
Well, I would just respond and say that we've already started the work without Dr. Sessoms, and just feel that at this time, with, like you said, Bill, the state of our country and our society, we can't afford to wait on this work. Definitely, we're not going to be starting tomorrow because you're right. We absolutely need to make sure that our processes and procedures for reopening school have smoothed out, and then we'll look to move forward in the near future, but not in the next few weeks. That is how I am envisioning what will happen. Maybe Dr. Strine has other things to add to that, but I think the work needs to start sooner rather than later.
And both are definitely huge issues for our United States as well as our school district. So we don't have the luxury of waiting. I mean, in my vision, every student has value and every student has importance. I want everyone to feel valued and feel that importance when they come to school. And this work is important. Although we've been running hard all summer long, and since March, we owe it to our kids to continue to work hard. So we will, and that's what they deserve.
Okay. Thank you.
I also feel much like our work to protect our children during a national pandemic, as you had mentioned, is important because safety first. This is a matter of safety as well, and I think the work had already begun prior to the pandemic. And if you think back to the commitments we as a board and administration together made to some parent concerns that came to light a while back, we made a firm commitment under Dr. Strine's leadership that we would address those matters systemically and then also on an individual level. And this is that systemic commitment that we had made, and it is a matter of safety. So I think the timing is probably actually excellent.
Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to echo something John mentioned, and when he spoke about training the trainer, it seems that I've kind of heard that before, and then we bring in a consultant, and then next year, the following year, we're still relying on the consultant to lead rather than using our excellent internal resources that we have. So I just want to say, when I heard a little bit about the description of what this consultant would be doing, and John said, specifically, what's the goal? And I'm not sure I heard that the work would be completed this year and that this would be bringing in someone for a one-time train the trainer and we move on and pick up the ball and take it from there. And I think that's my concern, that we're simply adding a head count, but we're adding a consultant head count again, and we don't really have the budget going forward to support another set of hands.
Dr. Strine, correct me, I think I can add a little bit to that, Denise, is that I would hope that we wouldn't be done in a year with this, that I don't think that districts get to where you're at in a year. When you're talking about adding diversity, inclusion, and equity, that is a long process. And so my hope is that we wouldn't be done in a year, that we would take the time that is necessary to truly do this in a way that is both strategic and long withstanding. And so I think that my hope is that we have the ability to use this consultant in ways that we may need to go back to that. So that would not surprise me in any way, having read about the process of what she would bring to our district, that we would come back next year at this time and say we would like to bring her back and do some other types of training, because this is a layered approach. This is the beginning steps of this, and this approach will take a lot longer. So while I hear what you're saying as far as curriculum is concerned, and I get that, but we don't have an expert in diversity, equity, and inclusion on our staff right now. Or we have people who are versed in it and can certainly carry the water that she is going to lay that groundwork. But we don't have experts in the same sense that we do with Dr. Sessom's work that we need to bring to the district. So I think that, Dr. Stein, you can correct me if I'm wrong or add to what I'm saying, please.
I would agree with you 100%. Obviously, we will lean on Dr. Sessom's early to find out where we are. But once we know where we are and where we need to be, we'll continue to build that capacity within the district and I guess wean ourselves away from Dr. Sessom's in the future as we get better with our practices and procedures. I almost said SOPs, but that's already been used tonight. So.
Yeah, look at you. See, you're rubbing off, John. So, okay. Any other questions? This will be a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Item 12D.
That'll be a nay from me. Thank you.
Item 12D passes. 12E, Yellow Breaches EMS agreement.
Madam President, I'd like